Hi, my name is Brandy Nolan, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Oklahoma, a small town in northern Oklahoma, and I have one brother. He's 10 years older than me, and as you can see, I am an older student. Life just sort of worked out that way, so that's how it's working for me. And sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I like to spend my free time, what free time I do have as a college student, full-time mom, full-time working person, is outside with my dog or with my boys. So I have two teenagers, one 14, well, he's getting ready to be 14 in a week, and then a 17-year-old. So they are dear and precious to me. To answer, my one fun fact is I will be the first in my family to earn a degree from a college. So that's sort of like my fun fact, and it will be very inspirational and very cool for me to do that. To answer the question number one, my educational experience as a student growing up in my school, so my town was really small, and the thinking, I think, was I feel that it was sort of stuck and stagnant in its time. And so it was positive. I didn't have anything horribly wrong or anything like that. I just felt like it was stagnant. And I was marked because I came from a big family of boys. So I was marked as, oh, you're one of those relatives. Because I guess the boys gave the teachers trouble or whatever. And so that sort of marked me before I even really had the chance of showing the teacher who I was, which I think later they found out that it wasn't as bad as they thought it would be. So it was pretty positive growing up in school. I did my homework. I had friends I played with. The only thing that I didn't like was in my high school years, so 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, I was in a different high school in a different state. And being the new kid all the time really, really stinks. It's hard to make friends because there's already kids that have been going to school for years, or they already had their little niche of friends that they liked. And moving from a different state was a culture shock in some ways, because I moved from like Oklahoma to like California. Well, that was a culture shock. Then I moved to Colorado. So just things like that was a little bit difficult in my high school years. For number two, I don't think in elementary there was any special education services inside the school, because that was like, I'm going to show my age, so no judgment, mid 70s to the 80s. So I think they were still in separate schools at that time, especially in my small hometown. But I did know in junior high, some kids would get pulled out, but it was for like a mild learning disability. They would just say they needed a little bit more time to learn the lesson. It wasn't, there was no severe disabilities that were visible to the students. So I think, again, they were still in a different school on their own. They were not with the general education classes. In high school, I have no idea because I moved around so much. I barely got to know anybody, much less with their special ed needs or not. Number three, do I have a special interest in working with students with special needs? Yes. I, at heart, am an advocate for I have an advocate for injustice and for the underdog. And I feel that students who have special needs get labeled very easily as behavior problems. I feel that they're misunderstood a lot, and I feel that a lot of people think they don't have to give them the same treatment or respect, or they get treated differently, so they can, because they're in a special ed classroom, then this student doesn't have to get invited to this general education thing that they're doing. Like, I just feel like they get, looked over a lot. So that sort of pulls at my heartstrings. And the fact that A lot of behavior from students, I feel, comes from just a lack of knowing how to communicate effectively. Um, and a lot of teachers that I've seen have just labeled that the students who choose to have behavior that gets the wrong amount of attention or whatever, they're just bad kids. And that's not the case at all. There's a reason they have the behavior, and there's a reason the behavior is continuing. So something's working for them. So I do have a special interest in working with students with special needs. And even before I got into being a para, I work at a local school as a para. I did preschool for 10 years, and I still had something that was, I was able to just understand the little kids who had behavioral issues. And I didn't label them or, think they were bad. I just tried to understand them more. So even then, I knew that there was something that I was connecting with in children who had special needs. I do work mainly with children who have behavioral needs. I don't have a lot of experience with other needs. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at. Number 4, knowing myself, which disability do you think would be the most challenging for me to live with? I put the traumatic brain injury, I think would be the hardest for me to live with, just from what I've seen as my experience in schools is the TBI can just affect the brain in such curious ways that nobody can really figure it out. And yet the individual doesn't always have the choice of what they're feeling. Rage can come out of nowhere and an escalation can happen. And I feel that a simple task, a society considers a task to be simple, but yet for somebody who has a traumatic brain injury, that can be a very challenging task to do. So I think that would be the most challenging. Have I noticed others around me who do not use person first language? I do. I do not know a lot. I think the more that I've noticed it is out in public that people say things, and I've even heard people still use the R word, which is very offensive to me. Um, and those are kids that I hear it from, like middle school or high school kids, and that's pretty offensive to me. I don't hear it a lot more from adults anymore, especially educators. And I think that just the teaching of person first language is making improvements because I think it's decreasing in adults. Children, I think, just can say things to be mean and don't understand maybe the ramifications of what they say sometimes. So I just think it's more teaching on that part, on the kid part still. And they may not know the history. I think that's what a problem with some of our children are, is they don't know the history and what the struggle has been and the fight has been to get it changed to something else. I don't think that's ever been really relayed to the children who do not use person first language. So, all right. I want to tell you real quick. I worked in the district for 6 years as a para, and I worked in specialized classrooms. So I work with kids who have emotional and behavioral disorders, and I work with so it's a district program. So we have just a few selected kids that are bused over to our classroom. I work with 4 students all year long. So they're great kids, and I love every one of them. But I like the specialized classroom in the behavioral department. I haven't done a lot with autism, but I am curious to know and to listen to other people's videos about what their take is on some of this stuff. So, all right, thanks for watching.